Good evening and welcome. You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. President Bola Tinubu resumes duties after working vacation. Southeast Group calls for probe into rumors of Chief of Army Staff Lagbaja's death. Chad's opposition party announces boycott of 29 December legislative and local elections. The details coming up shortly. Welcome again. News Central now at this hour begins in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu has resumed official duties at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa in Abuja following his return from a 2-week working vacation in the United Kingdom and France. Photos released on Monday from the State House shows the president receiving a briefing from the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zak Adediji. Tinubu returned to Abuja on Saturday after departing the capital on October 2nd for vacation. According to a statement, advisor of Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the president traveled to Paris on October 11 for an important engagement, as disclosed by his senior special assistant on political matters, Ibrahim Asari. The president's return comes as concerns grow over the delay in the presentation of the 2025 appropriation bill. And Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has launched the construction of 40 houses for judges and justices in the Federal Capital Territory. The initiative, part of the government's renewed hope agenda, aims to provide secure and convenient accommodation for members of the judiciary. According to Wike, the 40 residences will be built in the Katangpe district, with 20 allocated to the FCT High Court, 10 to the Federal High Court, and 10 to the Court of Appeal. He added that the project is expected to be completed within 15 months.
Today, we are not going to say, oh, we have flagged it up. But how are you sure that they will give us the CFO? We are going to give the CFO here to the Court of Appeal, to the Federal High Court, and to the FCT High Court, so that they know that as we have given you your land, and by next year, God willing, by the grace of God, and the contractor should know we have mobilized you. We mobilize you under the rain. You must also work under the rain. No excuses of the rain was too much, the sun. No. Work as we have paid. Nothing like rain or sun. We are not going to hold the contractor at all. We'll make sure that this is a parallel project that will be completed on time. And my Lord, the Chief Justice, will also be here next year by the grace of God to come and commission it. And we also believe the Court of Appeal Division, which was flagged up by a predecessor, will also be commissioned by next year to the glory of God. My Lord, you're a very lucky person. God's time is the best. And it's how it believes that the will of God that it is at this time you will be the Chief Justice of Nigeria when such project is starting. It is not anybody's own making. It is how God has made it. So will I say once more, congratulations, and we are happy that you are the one flagging it up and you'll be the one that will commission it.
Take over Nigeria. I don't know why they are afraid. Why they are afraid, we don't know. We want Nigerian army to take over Nigeria. We want Nigerian army to take over Nigeria. We want Nigerian army to take over Nigeria.
The Defense Headquarters has condemned the call for a military coup, describing it as a treasonable offense under the law. The warning came in a statement signed by the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, on Monday after a viral video where some persons were aggrievedly calling for a military takeover surfaced online. It also clarified that there was never an appointment of an acting Chief of Army Staff to replace Taoreed Lagbaja. It explained that the Chief of Army Staff is currently on a well-deserved rest as part of his 2024 annual leave. The statement said Major General Abdusalam Bagudu Ibrahim, the Chief of Policy and Plans, is providing routine briefs to the COAS in accordance with standard military procedure. Now, let's tell you that the Southeast Development Peace Initiative has called on the Nigerian government to investigate the source of rumors regarding the death of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. In a statement, SPDI leader Vitus Okechi, a former Enugu State Commissioner, expressed shock that such rumors would surface as the army chief was making significant strides in combating terrorism. Okechi called for a thorough investigation into the motives behind the false reports, which continued to circulate despite official statements from the defense headquarters confirming Lagbaja's well-being. He also emphasized the success under Lagbaja's leadership and urged the government to bolster security measures for the army chief. Okechi warned against dismissing the rumors without further inquiry. And we'll now come back to stories around the Nigerian military much later in the course of the bulletin. But for now, let's go politics. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, is calling for the removal of Ondo State's resident Electoral Commissioner, Mrs. Babalola Oluwatoyin, ahead of the upcoming governorship elections. The PDP urged the Independent National Electoral Commission to appoint a non-partisan official with no ties to the state. In a statement, or rather in a letter to INEC, Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the party's secretary, Olusheye Olujimi, warned that protests would continue until their demand is met. The PDP argues that replacing Babalola would help restore public trust in the electoral process and INEC's integrity. The party also criticized Yakubu for not properly verifying Babalola's background, calling for professional handling of the election to safeguard democracy. Still on election matters, APC National Chairman Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje and governors of the party have urged aggrieved members in Ondo State to unite and support Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa in next month's elections. Ganduje appealed to party members, including those who ran against Aiyedatiwa in the APC primary, to work together for victory. He emphasized the importance of unity, calling the primary a win-win and expecting 90% success at the polls. Ganduje urged a house-to-house campaign to secure votes. Lagos Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu also called for unity, stressing that with collective efforts, the APC can secure over 85% of the votes in the November 16 election. He highlighted a bright future for Ondo State under APC leadership. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and activists, have tackled the Nigerian police force over the alleged harassment of protesters commemorating the 4th anniversary of the EndSARS protest. The activists, including 3 females, were first dispersed by tear gas fired by policemen before being rounded up and bundled into an awaiting Black Maria, which transported them to Panti Police Station, Yaba, where they were detained, according to eyewitnesses. In a terse statement, Amnesty International describes the action by the Lagos State Police Command as unacceptable. The national coordinator of the Youth Rights Campaign, Michael Adaramoye, also condemned the vicious attack on activists and protesters, which he noted has characterized the police force. And now to discuss this, we are joined by Justice Ojieno, a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Now, Justice, good to have you here in the studio with us. It's been 4 years since the protest, October 2020. Now, would like to know exactly why it was absolutely necessary, first of all, to have such an event to commemorate the occasion. Why is it such an important event in Nigeria's history?
It is the least that the protesters or the persons who went to commemorate it could have done, because a number of lives were lost. First, it was entrapped in the arena of rumor. The government, which had the instrumentality of law enforcement that caused the death, denied it. But later, they had to own up to it because of the public outcry that followed, both local and international, and the fact that a panel of inquiry, a tribunal of inquiry was actually instituted that found that, in fact, persons were killed on the 20th of October 2020. And not just a local one. We also had the ECOWAS court also come up to say that, in fact and indeed, a number of infractions actually occurred during that period. So the least that people could do was to lay a writ, which was what they went to do yesterday. But unfortunately, they were harassed, arrested, but even though they were eventually released after interventions.
Harassed, arrested, and eventually released. However, now this took place 4 years ago to protest the actions of police against regular civilians. Has anything changed if we look at what happened 4 years ago and what happened yesterday?
Significantly, not much. Even though, with my experience, because I was also on ground yesterday with the protesters, and we were part of the lawyers that talked to the police to ensure that they were eventually released. What we saw, at least yesterday, was that at least when it comes to the upper echelon of the police force, the commissioner was quite professional in the way he addressed us and in the way he ensured that, yes, the rights of protesters were eventually, especially the right to freedom of the liberty of their persons, the fact that they were released immediately when we made demands of them. But as for their members, the members within their ranks, they were the ones that perpetuated the injustice that occurred to the protesters. It was quite gory. I wish I can go into individual details in this news bulletin, but it's unfortunate that happened when we confronted, especially the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Lanre Ishola. He told us that he is going to isolate those officers and deal with them accordingly, and that it won't be shrouded in secrecy, that we will be made aware of the disciplinary measures that will be taken against such officers. And we are waiting with bated breath that will actually and eventually happen. And if it doesn't happen we also have a bad news to use to escalate the matter.
There were numerous socio-economic factors that led to the protest in the first place from 4 years ago. And we've also had protests that have followed that since End Bad Governance was just a couple of months ago. Has anything changed, whether for better or for worse, regarding these factors that have caused the rate of expression when it comes to dissent? Not
significant. Nothing much has changed. I feel that as much as possible, yes, we had a situation where the police officers were really terrorists, especially NSAS at the time 4 years ago. Yes, there is some improvement. Yes, we may not have empirical facts as to how Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, are being maltreated in the hands of the police. But we know that maybe it's maybe it's not as bad as it was 4 years ago. But again, the Nigerian police officers are still maltreating Nigerians. They may just not be as organized as they were with the NSAS, but generally, the SAS operatives that are dissolved into the general Nigerian police force, they are still largely dealing and maltreating young Nigerians. And we will keep crying that the police still has a lot to do. Yes, it may be that it was very terrible at the time, but now we are not also saying that they don't have much to do. We have to keep being on the neck of the authorities of the Nigerian police force to ensure that improvements will keep being recorded when it comes to the rights and the dignity of the average Nigerian to their person and to the liberty of their person.
So the NSAS instance, now how has it affected the culture of expression when it comes to dissent? Has it emboldened younger people to continue to protest and ask for their rights? Or in the case of End Bad Governance, do we think that it has instead done the opposite?
I think it has done the opposite if we have to be frontal and frank. A lot of Nigerians now do not feel that they have, especially young Nigerians, do not feel the courage that is required to be able to come out on the street. The numbers don't lie. The facts are there. The number of Nigerians that thronged out during the NSAS protest did not throng out this period. But we know that strategies were changed. Rather than coming out on the street, of course, they are using some other media to be able to express their disgust at the Nigerian government. And it's also a shame on the Nigerian government that if we have a situation where young Nigerians are scared to come out, it is not to the credit of the Nigerian government. It is a fact that there is serious evidence of oppression of the Nigerian youth. That is why a number of them are not coming out. And I must also take this opportunity to salute the courage of the ones that know that, yes, if they come out, they will be dealt with in the manner which they were dealt with yesterday. And in spite and despite, still exercise the courage to come out. on behalf of the other Nigerians who are now in a situation of despair and a situation of lack of courage to come out. We encourage that no matter what, because of the disposition of especially the high echelon of the Nigerian police in Lagos State. I operated with the last commissioner too. This commissioner is about 1 month in office. We had their audience and we ensured that they give us guarantees that anybody who is arrested will be released. And that was exactly what happened during the End Bad Governance protest in August and this time too in October. With the guarantees of the ones who are in the higher offices, we think that we'll be able to ensure that the average young Nigerian exercises their right to protest without any let or hindrance. But as for the ones who have been molested, we will keep saying to the Nigerian police, especially the commissioner, to ensure that they are isolated and excised from the system, either by outrightly removing them from the Nigerian police force or exercising serious disciplinary measures against them so that the right to enjoyment of protests by the average Nigerian should be maximized rather than stifled.
I'm going to piggyback off of something that you said from earlier when you talked about strategies changing when it comes to how the protesters have activated these other protests. We also see a situation where it's a different governance, and we saw a change in strategy as well when it came to the use of police. Even if, however, that the SARS unit has been disbanded, there was still a major presence, a major use of the police or that apparatus when it came to the previous protests from a couple of months ago. How has this affected the dynamic, the change of strategy from the government itself?
Seriously, I think it has seriously affected the dynamics. I must be frontal to tell you that with what we've seen on the streets, there is a major and outsized display of force on the side of this government, especially in Lagos State. The presence of the Nigerian police in their numbers is highly uncalled for. And it is very, very important to note that with this show of force, excessive show of force, it is enough to discourage Nigerians who don't have as much courage as the ones who were defiant to the point of saying that no matter the number of tanks you roll out, no matter the number of officers you display on the streets, we will still come out. And of course, with their coming out, we know as lawyers to them that the least that we can do is speak the gauntlet of the likes of Mr. Ganifa, senior advocate of Nigeria, who defied the use of force by the governments of the time and ensure that some of the rights that we take for granted, not just as lawyers, but as average Nigerians, that the rights that we take for granted, he ensured that he held the government to account to ensure that those rights were put in place for us. For example, the FREP rules, the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedural Rules, was almost a one-man battle by the great Ganifa. But for him, it would have been very, very difficult for the average Nigerian to be able to approach the courts, to be able to ask for their rights. But because of what this great Mattia has actually done, we as Nigerians, there are a lot of rights that we enjoy. There are a lot of cases that we cite in court that because he has a fighting spirit that defies the use of force of the government of the day, that's why we can enjoy such rights. And I also encourage Nigerians that as lawyers, we will also contribute the little that we can contribute. But they too should defy no matter what the government does. We are enmeshed with the right to protest as enshrined in sections 39, 40, and 41 of our Constitution, and as abundantly declared in the cases in court, especially the case of ANPP and IGP, where the court expressly said that, yes, the average Nigerian has a right to protest, and it is the job of the police to ensure that they are protected while they are protesting.
Well, Justice Ejene, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the news this morning, or rather this evening. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
And now we're going on a short break. And then when we come back, federal government pledges to ensure Plateau citizens' safety amidst farmer-herder clash. We'll have the details after the break. Welcome back. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has responded to recent allegations made by Senator Oyelola Yisa Ashiru, Kwara South, dismissing his attack on the agency as driven by personal vendetta rather than genuine national interest. During a press briefing at its nation's national headquarters in Abuja on Monday, the NDLEA addressed Senator Ashiru's statement in which he accused the agency of being corrupt and compromised. The NDLEA stated that while it appreciates the senator's ongoing efforts to support Nigeria's progress, particularly the amendment of the NDLEA Act, it felt compelled to respond to what it described as an unprovoked attack. The agency clarified that Senator Ashiru's comments were made during his contribution to the debate on a new bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation on Tuesday, October 15, 2024.
The personal house of Senator Ashiru in GRA Ilorin, the capital of Kwara State, had been raided in recent past by the agency, where drugs and illicit substances were recovered, while two of his aides, Ibrahim Mohammed and Mohammed Yahaya, were arrested. Based on credible intelligence and surveillance which confirmed that the senator's house was being used as a drug joint for drug dealers and users, the house was raided by our operatives at 1:30 p.m. on February 4, 2024, during which the two aides were arrested while a third suspect escaped arrest. In another encounter with the senator, the agency also received intelligence that some of his boys, popularly known as Homo Senator, operating from his hometown, Ofa, were equally dealing in illicit drugs. A raid was subsequently carried out on their joint in Ofa, where one of them, Oluwatosin Odepida, was arrested and illicit drugs such as methamphetamine and cannabis recovered from him. That was on June 11, 2023. The bid to get the agency to drop the case against Odepida, including a visit to the Kwara State Command headquarters of the agency in Ilorin by the personal assistant to the senator, One Omoluabi, was revoked as Odepida was promptly charged to court and prosecuted.
Let's go back to the Nigerian military now, shall we? The Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to resolving the ongoing farmer-herder clashes in Plateau State. Speaking in Jos on Sunday during a meeting with opinion leaders, traditional rulers and security agencies, Badaru expressed deep concern over the continued violence despite efforts to address the issue. The meeting took place at the 3-division headquarters in Bassa local government area. Badaru warned against petitioning communities along ethnic or religious lines, describing such divisions as disastrous. He emphasized the need for harmonious coexistence and vowed that the government would not entertain demands of forced segregation. He also acknowledged the recent attacks and reprisals in Bakinladi and Riom local government areas, which have resulted in the loss of lives and property. Badaru pledged that the government would deploy all necessary resources to ensure the safety and security of the citizens. Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, has emphasized the need for peaceful coexistence among people of diverse ethno-religious and social-cultural divides. If peace must reign, he said. Now, the minister was speaking in Jos, Plateau State capital, north-central Nigeria, when he attended a stakeholders engagement on the recurring pockets of insecurity in some parts of the state that have left many lives lost and properties destroyed. Correspondent Chizoba Nyonwe was there for News Central and tells us more now.
The minister was received at the 3-division Maxwell Kobe Cantonment by the General Officer Commanding Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, where he inspected the quarter guard. Next port of call was the 3-division sports complex, where he addressed troops of Operation Safe Haven 3-division and those from the 551 Battalion, Nigerian Air Force.
My mission is simple: to thank you for the effort you are putting in returning normalcy to
Plateau State. We have seen the tremendous progress in the fight against insecurity. The President asked me to come and thank you for the effort and to tell you to do more.
The minister made some remarks before he went into a closed-door session with stakeholders from Barkin Ladi, Bokos, Mangu, Riom, and Wase local government areas of Plateau State, worst hit areas of violent attacks in recent times.
We spoke frankly, and I represent the federal government. There are recommendations that are being sent to the state, recommendations that the federal government will look into. And rubbing mind with the representative of the governor, I believe those recommendations will be discussed and will be taken care of. And I believe peace and normality will return to Plateau.
Issue of understanding, one, between all the parties involved, and then secondly, trying to get people to give or accept some concessions in order for us to have, genuine peace within the state. By the time we put in place one or two other measures in place in order to enhance this issue of understanding and for people to accept to give concessions, we will have a better peace within the state.
Host of the event and GOC 3 Armored Division, who also doubles as Commander Operation Safe Haven, said events such as this remain one of the non-kinetic measures to end criminality within the Operation Safe Haven's joint operations areas.
Stakeholders' engagement such as this is one of the non-kinetic tools which we have employed to address security issues on the plateau. And I am pleased to inform you that our initiative is largely working. I want to assure you that we are not resting on our oars in our efforts to attain our mandate of ensuring a safe, secure, and prosperous Plateau State.
These critical stakeholders were not left out in their thoughts on the event.
It is something that we cherish, and we believe that it will help us to live together in peace by the grace of God. And so we pray that what we have discussed will be implemented to the fullest.
The GOC, honestly, and the SF commander, they've been putting in their best. All they need is small cooperation with the traditional rulers. They need the cooperation of traditional rulers.
This meeting is a very good one because if all of us here will hear what the elders said, we will stay in peace.
Now, if events such as this and assurances given here are anything to take home, then sooner than later, pockets of insecurities here on the plateau and in some other parts of the country will be a thing of the past. From the 3 division headquarters in Jos for News Central, Chizoba and Nyesom.
The indigenous people of Biafra have asked Southeast residents to ignore any declaration of sit at home on October 21 and 22, insisting that the order did not emanate from the group. This comes after a video and voice note circulated on social media for over 2 weeks, warning residents of the Southeast to remain indoors on October 21st and 22nd, declaring a sit-at-home order. Residents were also threatened to be dealt with should they fail to comply with the directive. The development, however, generated panic and chaos, leaving the streets, markets, and schools of major areas in the region deserted as we speak. Professor Emmanuel Sodeke, president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, has provided insight into the reasons behind the union's continuous strikes. Speaking on News Central's Jasiri, Professor Sodeke mentioned university funding as the primary issue causing the union to embark on continuous strikes. He highlighted the poor learning conditions that students in federal universities are subjected to.
The number of issue funding, welfare of staff, the law about the government universities, amongst others. And that agreement, there was a clause that said that agreement will be renegotiated every 3 years, which means it was due for renegotiation in 2012. But we were patient, they refused to come until 2017, when they agreed to come and negotiate with us and put Professor Babalaki as, Dr. Babalaki as the chairman of the committee. We spent more than 3 years without moving forward. because they were not really interested in renegotiation. And then that negotiation failed. We have to go on strike again for the government to set up another committee made up chaired by Professor Musa Jibril, which within 6 months we completed renegotiation on both sides, waiting for government to give permission for them to sign, and we signed. But I can assure you they didn't come back to us again until we had to go on that strike in 2020 before they now set up the panel again, another panel again, this time headed by Professor Nimi Briggs of late memory, and we also reached an agreement on both sides, hoping that they will come back and will sign. Until today, that agreement was not signed. So that is the origin. Then the other issues. So that's the major issue on this hour, which we have been giving notice for strike. We have issue of our pay on unpaid salaries of 4 months. Haven't done the job. It's no work, no pay. We've done the job. Every university today is at the 2013-2014 academic year.
The transmission company of Nigeria has promised a backup or buffer system to ensure that Nigerians won't be thrown into blackout whenever the national grid collapses. The TCN manager, Director Sule Abdulaziz, who made this known, blamed aged infrastructure as old as 50 years for the frequent grid collapses in the country. The TCN boss said the investment in critical electricity generation and transmission infrastructure must be continuous. He said Nigerians are paid more for power because electricity production is not easy, and that citizens on Band A now enjoy 24-hour electricity, a claim many residents would contest. Abdulaziz said despite the electricity tariff hike, power in Nigeria has remained cheaper than what is obtainable in neighboring Chad, Mali, Burkina Faso, and other African countries. And in more news, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has extended an invitation to investors to capitalize on the state's favorable business environment, emphasizing its potential for growth and success. Governor Oborevwori made the call during the Urobo Progress Union Youth Wing Worldwide Youth Conference Day, hosted at the ultra-modern Urobo Cultural Center in Imuemuge, Ogaho. News Central's Austin Azu has more on this.
The Urobo Youth Wing, in conjunction with stakeholders from the 24 Urobo kingdoms, converged on the ultra-modern Urobo Cultural Center, Uriamuge, Agbaro, Delta State, with a focus on unity as a prerequisite for harnessing Urobo potential for economic development. Governor Sheriff Oborevwori, represented by Professor Nyesom Wike, Commissioner for Higher Education, urged youth to prioritize education and concurrently develop pathways to economic empowerment, thereby driving Nigeria's socio-economic advancement.
Governor is trying to inform the youths that whatever they require to have that skill is making it available in terms of education, tertiary education within the state. But at that same time, he's telling them, now, I'm giving you this skill, giving you this education. Take this education, take this skill, go and establish companies, go and do something that will make Nigeria, greater than what it is before. Because people that are over really do much again. It's the youth, the younger ones coming up that is going to take Nigeria to the greater heights. That is the essential message of the governor.
Notable keynote speakers emphasized the importance of unity and advancement of the Urobo nation, while also advocating increased federal and state investments in the region.
Urobo youth should get educated. Why get the education, formal education? They can also get skill, vocation, so to equip themselves. So if they do not get the salaried job, no problem. Then you make yourself self-reliant, like our forefathers used to do. And if you feel you have, if that one is not enough for you, find a way legitimately, explore outside the world. So Urobo youths, they need mentorship and allowed to be mentored.
We have a very flourishing land in the Urobo Kingdom. So we'll say the youth should get involved with agriculture, not just as a profit-making business, but as something that is going to make them the future, the leaders of the future tomorrow.
I urge the youth to organize themselves, to create awareness, and to support political parties and candidates who will make the creation of Urobo State a priority, part of their manifesto.
Blessed Ugere, president of the UPO Youth Wing and Planning Committee Chairman Evis Akpobi, underscored the program's aims and unveiled the 25-year development strategy master plan for the Urobo youth nation.
Unity is paramount for us to grow.
It has come to the position that we have to think for our future. The major fact or the major gain of today's event is the unveiling of the 25 years master plan for Orobo Nation, which is the Agenda 2050.
I'm proud to be an Orobo. Orobo is the 5th largest ethnic group in Nigeria as for today, and we are blessed with young people that have character, skills, competence, and they have foresight. So we needed a monetary point where we, the young people who are the future of Orobo, sit down, discuss our challenges, and chart a way forward.
The Orobo youth are renowned for their collective voice and resolute commitment. And hopefully, the 25-year master plan will bring the desired results and advancements. In Ugele for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Coming up, Mozambique's riot police fired tear gas to disperse crowds amidst planned protests. We'll bring you more on this when we get back after the break. Welcome back. The news continues in Central Africa, where Chad's opposition party, Transformers, has announced it will boycott the December 29 legislative and local elections, claiming the results are already premeditated. Party leader Success Masra, a vocal critic of junta leader Mahatma Idris Deby Itno, made the announcement during a ceremony honoring victims of anti-junta protests from 2 years ago. Masra argued that participating would legitimize a process he believes is rigged in favor of the ruling camp. Masra, who claimed 18.5% of the vote in the May presidential election, has repeatedly accused Derby's team of electoral manipulation. The GCAP opposition group also announced last month it would boycott the elections, raising further doubts about the election's credibility.
Après avoir épuisé à date cette démarche, pour moi et pour nous qui avons été mandatés au niveau de l'équipe de direction pour engager cette démarche, aujourd'hui, dans ces conditions, participer aux élections reviendrait purement et simplement à servir de caution à l'installation de l'apartheid et de caution à un résultat qui est déjà dans les ordinateurs du camp en face. Je répète, n'allez pas dire que les transformateurs boycottent les élections. Ce n'est pas nous qui boycottons, mais on nous a demandé d'accompagner un électoralisme plutôt que de la démocratie. Et il y a une différence entre l'électoralisme et la démocratie.
In the southeast of the continent, riot police in Mozambique fired tear gas on Monday to disperse a small crowd in Maputo, where shops remained closed ahead of a planned protest against alleged electoral fraud. The protest was called by opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, who ran in October 9th presidential elections to challenge the early results that show the ruling Frelimo party in the lead. Tensions have escalated since the killing of 2 of Mondlane's associates in Maputo on Saturday. Lawyer Elvino Diaz and Paulo Guambe, a candidate for the Podemos party which supports Mondlane, were shot dead after their car was surrounded by other vehicles, according to witnesses. Mozambique, which is expecting official presidential and parliamentary results this week, has a history of electoral violence. Last year, several people were killed in clashes following municipal elections.
Melhor porque eu estava cercado na minha casa, tinha pessoas à minha porta para me impedirem de sair, estava seguido durante toda a noite, mas por isso estive um pouco limitado, é muito cedo estar aqui e queria mesmo estar pontualmente às 10 para iniciar a marcha. Esta ainda é a primeira etapa. Depois do enterro do Elvino, nós vamos indicar a segunda etapa. Nós estamos a prever mais ou menos 4 etapas que vão fazer parte do projeto da reivindicação, do projeto do repúdio a este roubo que aconteceu. O meu apelo é que todo mundo vá para casa, porque eu penso que já foi um grandíssimo sucesso. O país está paralisado a 95%, portanto isso significa que nós conseguimos os nossos objetivos, que era o objetivo primário. O objetivo primário era exatamente uma greve nacional, uma greve geral, portanto a suspensão de toda a atividade laboral pública e privada.
In a remarkable initiative that highlights the power of collaboration and compassion in healthcare, Nigerian doctors and South African nurses over the weekend joined forces to address healthcare gaps through a community medical outreach program at the Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg. This unprecedented partnership aims to provide essential healthcare services to undeserved communities in South Africa. By pooling their expertise, Nigerian and South African healthcare professionals are working together to treat various medical conditions, distribute medication, and promote overall health awareness. News Central's Ogani Sisiba has more.
This initiative has become a beacon of hope for many, especially those who face financial barriers to healthcare. For countless individuals, accessing medical treatment has become a daunting challenge, and a lifeline is being extended. Today, Nigerian doctors and South African nurses are turning compassion into action.
So we came up with this initiative to come every year to give free medical services to our nationals so that people can have access, even if it's once in a year, to doctors.
These dedicated Nigerian doctors are not only treating patients, but are also giving back to South African communities they reside in, fostering goodwill and trust.
We write tests for them, we check their blood pressures, their sugar level, and we advise where necessary, and even medications where necessary we give.
Today is not just about medical treatment, it's about connection, compassion, and creating a community where everyone feels valued.
Some families, they are about 4, 6. If you can go to a private doctor, you know how much you will spend. So this initiative from the Nigerian Doctors Forum is a very huge one. And we, the Nigerian community here, we appreciate them.
I came here to be helped because outside there things are difficult. It's not all of us who have money to go to the special doctors.
In this initiative, it's not just about treating ailments, it's about instilling hope and health empowerment within the communities. This relationship between Nigerian doctors and South Africa stands as a testament in the health profession.
Everybody comes here to get free medical treatment from the Nigerian Doctors Home. It's something that unifies the country and also changes the narrative and the stigma that's attached to how people see Nigerians or South Africans.
I also took this wonderful opportunity to get my health checked as well. Like many here, I know how difficult it can be to access proper medical attention. These lives were touched, spirits uplifted, and futures brightened. One free consultation at a time. These Nigerian doctors and South African nurses remind us that healthcare is a universal right, and that kindness knows no borders. The access to quality medical care is a privilege that many cannot afford. These Nigerian doctors have come together to bridge this gap through community medical outreach programs. At the Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
The Nigerian Basketball Federation has announced the commencement date for the 2024 NBBF Men's Premier Basketball League season. The tournament is set to begin on October 25 in Benin and in Jos. 16 top clubs will compete in the Atlantic and Savannah conferences from October 25 to November 3rd. In the Atlantic Conference, teams like defending champion Rivers Hoopers, Kwara Falcons, and Lagos Legends will compete in Benin, while the Savannah Conference, featuring Nigerian Customs, Caterpillars, and others, will take place in Jos. 4 teams from each conference will advance to the final 8, and the champion will represent Nigeria at the 2025 Basketball Africa League. And US Open champion Aryna Sabalenka has risen to #1 in the latest WTA rankings, ending Iga Swiatek's 11-month stay at the summit. Belarusian Sabalenka, who also retained her Australian Open title in January, tops the ranking for the second time after an 8-week stay between September and November 2023. Neither player were in action last week, but Poland's Swiatek dropped a second after being given a points penalty for failing to compete in the mandatory 6 WTA 500 events. The 23-year-old, who appointed a new coach earlier this month, has only competed in 2 of the tournaments and has not played since the U.S. Open in September, after deciding to miss the tour's Asian swing because of fatigue. Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk has said he has opened talks with the club about signing a new deal. The 33-year-old has been with the club since January 2018, and his current contract runs out at the end of the season. England international Trent Alexander-Arnold and Egypt forward Mohamed Salah are also out of contract next summer, but there has been no update on their situation. The Reds signed Van Dijk for £75 million from Southampton, and he has helped the Anfield club win the Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, and also FIFA Club World Cup. Under new management and fellow Dutchman Arne Slot, he has helped Liverpool to top of the Premier League this season with 7 wins from their opening 8 games. Van Dijk has been instrumental in Liverpool conceding just 3 goals this season, giving them the best defensive record in the Premier League. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories that we brought your way. President Bola Tinubu resumes duties after working vacation, and Southeast Group calls for probe into rumors of Chief of Army Staff Lagbaja's death. Chad's opposition party announces boycott of 29 December legislative and local elections. And thank you very much for watching, but do remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. My name is Mazino Appeal.